Black Witch Diary here, Luciferian Witch of the Left Hand Path and Occult Educator. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you very much for clicking on this video. If you are not subscribed, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. I upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday UK time, all things occult related. So if that is the kind of content that you like, please hit subscribe. So in today's video I am going to be talking about something a little bit different today, something I haven't spoken about before, something not really demonology related. I talk about demons, working with demons a lot, but today we are talking about something that's a little bit more kind of earth magic, because that's kind of what I feel drawn to practicing at the moment. But before we get into that, the usual announcements. Initiation INFERNALE is beginning on March 15th. So not long to go at all now. So if you haven't booked in your free discovery call, you can do so via the link in the description. For those that don't know, Initiation INFERNALE is my program which is your personal initiation into demonology. This is a six month long program and basically covers everything that you need to have an effective and powerful and safe demonology practice. The dynamic is kind of like 50% group and 50% one-on-one, so you're getting the best of both worlds there, and everything's kind of like, obviously the curriculum is focused, but at the same time you are getting individual attention from me to focus on your specific learning needs as well. So, like I said, not long to go. Get your discovery call booked in. It is free. What else do we have going on? So I'm doing a clearance sale. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, I am moving country, so I am basically clearing the stock that I have. So candles, oils, mystery boxes are the focus of this clearance sale. So yeah, reduced prices, go check it out, link is in the description. And finally, memberships for workshops. This is no longer on my YouTube. I've moved this over to my website. There is still an option to join on my YouTube, but please don't, because the content is uploaded at blackmagicdiary.com in the members section now. So make sure that you are joining through the right way. And we'll have a brand new workshop this month, so that will be mentioned shortly, but you can view how the memberships work on the website. There's monthly workshops, monthly Q&As. Depending on what tier you join, there are extra perks as well, so you can go and view those at blackmagicdiary.com. So into today's video, working with animals, both dead and alive in magic. So this is quite a broad topic, so yeah, and there might be some kind of questions of ethics around this, so we're going to go into all of that. But this is a very broad topic, and I feel like when I mention working with animals, dead or alive, people might be jumping towards like animal sacrifice, you know, me being a magician of the darker stuff might, you know, jump to that conclusion, or you know, obviously like working with bones and dead things and things like that. So where are we going to start? We're going to start with working with animals that are alive. And this is something it feels like thinking outside the box a little bit, right? But a lot of the time when you're doing kind of like magic with animals, you're thinking about the characteristics and the nature of that animal, whether they are dead or alive. There's a really nice little spell that you can do with ants, actually, to resolve arguments, feuds, conflict, things like that. If you think about ants, they are creatures that work within a colony, and therefore they work together, right? They're very cooperative, and you know, they all do their bit. So there is a spell involving honey in which you are bringing all of these ants together to try and kind of sweeten up a situation where there's conflict. So I always thought that was a really cool idea, right? So that's an example of how you can work with animals whilst they're alive and not actually harming them either. Another way you can work with animals is kind of using parts of them that obviously aren't necessary for them to be alive in spells. So for example, like their hair or their fur, their claws, if any of their teeth fall out, their urine, their feces, if you want to get really gross with it. So yeah, there's all sorts of things you can do. So in breakup spells in particular, you could consider using cat hair and dog hair together, preferably black dog hair and black cat hair, just for the sake of correspondences. But the idea is to make people fight like cat and dog, right? So that's another example. Claws and teeth, very good for protection spells as well. Urine and feces, if you're up for doing that, great addition to a cursing jar. Yeah, animal magic is kind of something you can get really creative with, you know, whilst the animal is alive. Also, something I do as well is when I make my war water, I leave it somewhere where I know that animals are potentially going to fight. So where I used to live, there was like a lot of cats nearby, so I'd get a lot of cat fights in my garden, so I'd leave the war water close by to where I knew they would fight to kind of absorb that that energy. So that's another example as well. You can use the energy of where they have been. So let's address the elephant in the room that I mentioned at the beginning, which was animal sacrifice, because obviously this is a whole moral argument. So I don't know why the association comes to people's minds when it comes to animal sacrifice that it's like a satanic thing. Like, you've clearly never looked, even glanced at the traditional African religions or the traditional religions in South America, like Santeria, you know, where they are killing chickens and, you know, other animals and stuff like that. You know, you've clearly never looked into any of that, and there's nothing actually satanic about that stuff. Like, a lot of the time, especially in Santeria, clues in the word, they're working with saints. So yeah, you know, there's a moral argument there, and if you want my moral perspective on it, it's something that I couldn't do. It's something I wouldn't feel comfortable doing. Taking an animal's life for the sake of ritual. I'm not saying that it is inherently wrong. I'm just saying I couldn't do it myself, right? Someone else would have to take on that task. I'm just, yeah, it just grosses me out. Like, so I as most of you know, my partner is American. And I'm quite excited by the idea of learning how to shoot a gun, right? Because over here, I live in the UK, I don't have access to firearms. There's hardly any legality when it comes to firearms in this country, right? So I find the idea of learning how to shoot really exciting. But he's like, yeah, you know, we should go hunting. I'm like, hunting? You mean like I have to actually kill something? So yeah, that's kind of like my stance on it. But, you know, I mean, I feel like if you eat animals, then when it comes to people doing animal sacrifice and it's got absolutely nothing to do with you and it doesn't affect you at all, like unless they're literally killing your pet, like killing your cat or your dog or something, I don't think it concerns you, because, you know, if you're eating chicken for your dinner, why are you worried about the chickens that are being sacrificed in ritual? Because the chickens that are being sacrificed in ritual are probably treated a hell of a lot better than the chicken that was killed and is now sitting on your plate. So yeah, you know, that's kind of like the ethical argument when it comes to it. Animal sacrifice is not something that I have practiced. I did put a spider into something once that was still alive, but that's as far as I've gone when it comes to animal sacrifice. So yeah, that's where I kind of stand on it. But let's go into working with animals that are actually dead, so bones and things like that. And I'll also go into how to actually prepare your own bones as well. So, working with bones of different animals, so you want to kind of pick out the characteristics of the animal. Is it a fast moving animal? Is it a slow moving animal? Is it an animal that can fly? You know, these are all things that you can bear in mind when it comes to the intention of your spell work. So, for example, when it comes to birds, there's often a wishbone, which can be used quite widely in a lot of different spells. If you're using bones from a fox or a coyote or something like that, you're thinking about sneakiness, you're thinking about you know, maybe doing it to deceive someone or to get away from a situation quickly or move something quickly. If you're thinking about birds, you could use bones from the wing for, you know, freedom or for letting go or something like that, right? So you want to consider the kind of characteristics of the animal and the kind of correspondences there. And you know, this is kind of like, there's so many like folklore traditions around animal remains and bones and stuff. Like the most common one is probably carrying around a rabbit's foot for good luck. So yeah, you know, this has been going on for a long time in very much plain sight. In terms of how to get hold of your bones, so pretty easily available online, but you know, can get expensive. So if you live in an area where it's kind of either, I don't know, built up and there's like roadkill, or if you live in nature like me and you know, you might go for a walk and see a dead rabbit. I've seen a dead rabbit which was mostly decomposed, and I've also seen a dead swan, which was really sad because it was like freshly dead and there were crows eating it and stuff. Anyway, so you know, I do see a lot of dead animals around here. I mostly see dead badgers, like when I'm driving. I've never seen a live badger before in real life, but I always seem to see dead ones, right? So yeah, you can either handle roadkill or fight. I prefer to like find smaller creatures that are already like reasonably decomposed, because trying to kind of prepare bones of an animal, like especially a big animal like a fox that has freshly died, we're talking about leaving that thing in the ground for 6 months or longer so that it can fully decompose and it's just the bones that are left. So yeah, basically what you want to do is, so you kind of, I'll walk you through the process of what I did with like a dead bird in the garden that a cat had killed, which I'd actually buried already, but they just kept digging the poor fucking bastard up. I was like, oh my god, please leave that poor bird alone. Like it's suffered enough. Like, you're just, do you know what was the worst, right? They dug it up, and obviously there was a hole where they dug it up. They shat in the hole where the bird was buried and just left the bird on the side. I was like, oh my god. And by that point I just fucking gave up and literally watched this thing decompose day by day, which was really disgusting, but also kind of helpful to see like the process of like when the bones would be ready. So yeah, obviously you need to, if you're going to touch anything, please wear gloves, and you know, wash your hands thoroughly, preferably with like you know, alcohol sanitizer and stuff, and you know, wear a mask as well. That's if you're planning on like touching and getting super close to it. If you can watch it from a distance, then cool, but yeah, you know, it's gross stuff and you don't want to get a disease. So yeah, just a bit of safeguarding there. So yeah, I was kind of watching this bird decompose, and I kind of poke it with like a long stick from a distance, to see if like the maggots had finished. And yeah, you got to have a strong stomach as well. Like if you get like squeamish about like maggots or like rotting, then yeah. Personally, I've got a bit of a morbid interest in it, so it's I don't find it that bad. But yeah, I kind of poked this thing with a stick to just be like, you know, like where's it at? And then when I could see that it was just sort of like a carcass left and there was nothing left for the maggots to eat, I'd pour boiling water on it and try and get like all like any remaining feathers or like flesh off of it, which usually works quite well. Take the bones, break them up into like individual bones because they're usually going to be sort of like half a skeleton there, and then put it in boiling water again, try and scrub any kind of like remaining flesh or ligaments off. And then what I would do to clean them up a bit is I'd leave them soaking in peroxide powder for about a day. I don't like my bones too white, I still like them to look quite natural, so I left them in for a day. But if you want them to look more white, you want to soak them in peroxide a few times. And it's a shame I don't actually have my bones here right now to show you, but basically I managed to get the majority of a skeleton from a bird, which is pretty cool. So yeah, that's how I wash out my bones. Like I said, I don't really do it with bigger animals because that's just a whole long process, and you know there are people that are professional with this shit, with like, you know, salvaging bones and taxidermy and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like there's some relevant training to do there, I guess, to really learn that skill. But you know, small creatures, it's relatively easy to do. And yeah, then you can use the bones for whatever. You can use them in your spell work. I like to use mine for divination. I think bone throwing is a really cool way of doing divination. And it's another way of doing divination so that you're not just solely relying on things like tarot. Like, yeah, tarot is great, but I think with tarot you risk getting caught up in the meanings of the cards a little too much, and it doesn't necessarily give you a lot of room to kind of expand your sight beyond the meanings if you get too caught up in them. So I always kind of encourage people to find alternative methods to divination, such as bone throwing, for example, to yeah, expand upon that. And it's a really good kind of exercise for your own sort of psychic skills. So yeah, that's my process with bones. So I hope you enjoyed this video about working with animals, both dead and alive. And yeah, let me know in the comments of any kind of creative ideas you come up with about how you could incorporate animals, whether that's dead or alive, into your magic, and what kind of outcome you'd be aiming to achieve from that. I'd really like to know. I think this is such an interesting topic. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.